I'm not a big fan of this particular iteration of contingency contract, though I am pretty happy with this clear. When I first loaded up this stage and saw the traffic controller mechas, I knew it was going to be a rough CC. And when I saw the base level had 4 arriving via 2 different lanes, I thought for a while I might not even be able to do a risk 0 clear with 5-star Maleknights. I don't have access to a 4-block operator, and pretty much only my defenders can survive the explosions. So the remaining options are to burst them down from a distance, or use silence to stop the explosion. But the mecha in the back is pretty much impossible to hit without also getting shot at by the one in the front. So pretty much the only option for that one is to silence it. For a while, I struggled trying to get something working with Serum, but there isn't a good tile to put him on that doesn't expose my units that are pushed up to take out the mecha from the upper red box. It wasn't until a couple hours later when I suddenly remembered Blitz also has a silence ability as well. He's been quickly becoming my MVP for this CC. I used him for stalling with his stun in the second daily map, and his invis reveal in the third daily map. And here, his silence is the only reason I'm even able to post a video about the main test site. As for this CC itself, I'm a bit disappointed by it, because it just feels like we're being clubbed by a big fat stat stick. The last few contingency contract main stages have had mechanics that allowed for some decision making and creativity. CCB1 and CCB2 gave us the Burning Reed mechanic and the Seaborn Creep mechanics. They gave us options like choosing where the fire and creep start from, and during the actual fight, we get to decide where to deploy our operators to stop or not stop the spread of the fire and creep. And CCB3 was all about the tornado, and all of the mechanics revolving around growing and moving it around. Admittedly, the CCB3 tornado was probably a bit too far along the scale. That thing probably did more work for us than the enemies for most players. But I think CCB4 was an overcorrection. There's some risks that change enemy weights, but both of the DP cost increasing risks target specialists for some reason. So the primary mechanic of Lone Trail, which is pushing and pulling, is pretty much soft banned if you want to grab what is usually a pretty easy risk. As for the gravity mechanic, both blue boxes are at the top of the stage, and the enemies basically never walk downwards unless you count that one tile the mechas walk when they spawn. So you pretty much always want gravity pointing down. Pointing gravity upwards seems like self-sabotage. And as for the balls, in my early runs I used the mechanic to kill a dog, and then I got rid of that because it was super annoying to do and not worth it at all. Since you generally want gravity pointing down, and shifters are soft banned, there's very little incentive to spend resources to utilize the balls. So yeah, as far as risks go, since I can't really deal with the mechas, that entire section of risks is a no-go. For the operators I have, the standard base is to take all of the risks related to the weight and shifting mechanics, since they're pretty much useless. I imagine that most high score clears would be grabbing these risks as well. I also pump up the enemy's defense since I have so little ranged physical damage. Then for this run specifically, I grabbed the 4 class debuffs, the ground tile bans, the DP cost increases, the 2 additional mechanics at spawn, and as many buffs and debuffs as I could handle. I basically see this stage as having 3 components. You've got cars from the right and mechanics from the left that go north along the pathway on the right. You've got pusher bots from the right and generic trash from the left that go east along the pathway running down the middle of the map. And then you've got the mechas that come in pairs. For the cars and mechanics, they're pretty easy to deal with so long as gravity is pointing down. It's clear Hypergriff is aware of this too, since they send 2 block-reducing enemies across the down button, just as the first shield enemy walks over the up button. I specifically use Canny Pallet here to levitate the block reducers, so I can get the down button locked with a blocker. Once gravity is locked downwards, Canny Pallet and Baseline can hold the right side by themselves, though I do use Senshi initially, so I can later deploy Baseline after Gray. For the mechas, the core of the strategy is Broca, Minimalist, Gray, Blitz, and a healer. Broca offers strong, long-range arts damage, Blitz is needed for his silence, and the healer is needed since the ejected pilots hurt a lot. Minimalist is used for the damage, of course, but also because he's good for the hit count mechanic. Him, alongside Gray, are used to get mechas and shield guys' resistances down as quickly as possible. With all the risks I've taken, this core team isn't enough to kill the second mecha, so I also bring in Leonhardt for some extra damage and, more importantly, his resistance shred. The next biggest struggle was how to contend with the pile of enemies flowing from left to right across the center lane. Pretty much the only thing I have room for is an extra guardian for more healing, and relying on my mecha killing squad to also act as my trash cleanup crew. The rest of the squad is 3 DP generators to deal with the DP reduction risks. Puzzle gets to proc his talent when hitting the balls, and so is the main DP generator of the run. Wanqing was picked for his healing and HP buffs to keep Blitz alive against the first lightsaber guy. And Matsukiri is here for the defender buffs to help keep Blitz, Baseline, and Hung alive at various parts of the clear. That's all I have to say about this run, and I hope the next CC will bring us back to the more creative aspects of past CCs, rather than just pure stats like this one. Thanks for watching.